Sorry, the first thing people say when I say I'm skating, it's like, the next three are Bonali. All the time.
Hello, my name is Acacia Hill.
And I'm Asher Hill.
Welcome to FSDIA's Conversation in Color, where we traverse the topics that are rarely discussed in the skating community with the voices that are rarely heard.
We aim to open up a much-needed dialogue, perspective, and hopefully education on subjects that have become somewhat taboo in our skating community.
Today, we are discussing and gaining perspective on what it's like to be a Black figure skater.
We are joined by three wonderful guests and friends that are not only amazing skaters, but also pure Black excellence.
Let's welcome Maé Bérénice Méité, six-time French national champion, world competitor, and two-time Olympian.
Elladj Bladé, international medalist, world competitor, founder of Skate Global, and president of FSDIA.
Vanessa James, European champion, world medalist, and three-time Olympian. Woo!
Thank you guys for being here.
Black excellence
literally,
here.
Literally. That's 5 Olympics right there in this one screen.
Yeah.
It's okay, Elladj. Don't worry, I didn't go either.
Me neither.
We're good. We don't need it. We don't need it.
They did it for us.
Yeah.
Combination adds up 5 for us.
There we go. One apiece. You win, we all win. That's how it goes. That's how we do it. So let's get to know our guest today. So Maé, can you introduce yourself? How did you get into skating? How long have you been skating? All that good stuff.
Hi, my name is Maé. I'm 25, almost 26. I've been skating for 21 years now. Yeah, I started when I was 5 years old in my hometown in Vitry-sur-Seine, close to Paris. Super cool experience because I was lucky enough to have a lot of diversity in my home rink. So that's where I grew up with. And I skate in France for 10 years or a little bit more. And now I'm training in the US in Tampa, Florida. And living my best life, I guess.
I love Petty.
Elladj.
What's up? Yeah, my name is Elladj Bladé. I am born in Russia from a Russian mother and African father from Guinea. And we immigrated to Canada when I was 2 years old. So grew up most of my life in Montreal and started skating at the age of 6. So I've been skating for almost 24 years now. My mom put me in figure skating. She was a figure skater back in Russia when she was young. She had to stop skating at a young age because she moved to Uzbekistan and they didn't have any rinks there. So, but she was very, very passionate about the sport. And I think, like all of you know, I've said this 1,000 times, but I hated skating. I hated everything about skating. I didn't want to skate. I tried everything not to skate. I would tell my mom I didn't want to go. I would hide my skates in the closet, tell my mom, lost my skates. They're gone. She would look for them, find them, put them in my bag, take me to the car, drive me to the rink, and make me skate. I actually once accidentally left my skates in a subway.
Oh my
and
God.
We got off the subway.
My mom would kill me.
Oh my God.
Oh, she did.
This is his second life.
It is. I died and came back to life within that day. So.
When you got back,
Huh?
Were they there when you got back?
No, they were gone. That was it.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That was it. That was within the first few years of my skating career. So it was a great start, to say the least. And it grew on me. Obviously, I'm extremely passionate about it now, and I live from it, and it fulfills me in ways that that are unimaginable. So yeah, that's kind of my beginning, my journey with skating.
Skating too.
Yes, I did.
He
I
cried
did.
all the time. I'm like, get up.
I did. And last but not least, Vanessa.
So I came from a tennis family. My dad is from Bermuda. My mom originally from Barbados, but was from Canada. Grew up in Canada for a very long time and went to U of T. So we love tennis. My family did anyways. And so I have a twin sister. We got into tennis, of course, forced into it. And if it wasn't our coaches, it was our dad. If it wasn't our dad, it was our uncle. If it, everybody, even our grandfather. So, it's a little tough having everyone as a critic and as a judge and as a coach. So anyways, skating was also part of our family too, growing up in Toronto, or Brampton, I should say. But yeah, they took us skating, I think at age 8 or 9 or something like that for Christmas. And my twin sister fell in love with it. And since we do everything together, my parents signed us up for figure skating, tried to do it before school every day. We excelled really quickly. And then we had to make a choice because both sports are very, very expensive. And there were 2 of us. And it was an easy choice for us. We were like, ciao, tennis. Bye, family. I know, suckers. And we just kept doing it, My sister got into ice dance, and I'm a pair skater now, but we both were pretty strong in single skating. And that was the end of that. The rest is history.
It must be nice to make it a choice and pursue it at that age. It must be a nice experience.
Well, I started when I was 11, so it was different. Okay. It really was my choice, and it was our decision to continue and to work hard at it. Our parents didn't know anything about it, so it's not like they could say, like, do this better. They're just like, fine to me.
I'm curious to know how all of your first competitions went. I just quickly side note, my first competition, I showed up and there was no one in the rink. It was completely empty, and I was literally like, yes, we missed it. I was like, we were here too late. And my mom was like freaking out. She didn't know what was happening, and I was literally like, thank you. I'm so blessed right now. I can get to go home and keep playing video games. That's all I wanted to do. And literally within 5 minutes, we realized we were there way too early. So yeah, so I had to go through that, and I was not happy. Not happy. I gotta say, I was at my first competition was 7 months into my skating career. 7 months of like no skating at all, get into skating, go compete. So it was a disaster. I should show. I'll try to find a video. And share it with you guys.
Yeah.
It was
like, splice it in. Yeah, for sure.
You could have just said you were a natural, like, boom.
I mean, I tried all the singles, but they didn't happen. So
she didn't wall jump. She just jumped forward and land and glide forward.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm excited to show you guys this video because it's pretty brutal. So no need to say.
Let's take a pit stop in this first competition. Vanessa, what was your first competition like?
From what I remember, it was not empty. I think there were quite a few people. My sister skated first, and she skated really well. My mom always taught us, like, you do your best, and then you wish the best for your sister. That's how she wanted us to go about competing, even since we were young. But I do remember, because we have a video too, I got to pick out my fabric, of my dress, and my mom made it. I don't think she knows how to sew because, well, I guess I didn't know at the time, but she tried sewing our dresses. You know how sometimes you see little girls with, like, the back of their dress is much shorter than the front? Yeah. And I had, like, this little mermaid. I had, like, this sparkly, like, rainbow, like, very strange that I picked out with stars. And then, like, I remember I had these light tights because they didn't have tights to match our skin color. Not that I noticed at the time, but you look back and you're like, damn, I went out like that. And then the back of my skirt was just, like, so short. And I talked to my mom. She's so like offended every time I talk to her. But I'm like, Mom, why did you let us go out like that? I tried my best. So, yeah, that's all I remember now.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my gosh. My mom made my dress too. My first one was like big sleeves. I was like, wow, what was that? I was like, oh my God, girl. And this like deep purple. I'm like, whew, that was not a good look. But it was pretty even, the skirt. So I gotta give her some credit.
Yeah, mommy can make a frock.
Yeah, she can make a frock.
Yeah, she can make a frock. Hey, your first competition, memories?
Mine was actually pretty good. I had a nice dress. Well, it wasn't my mom though. Oh yeah, no, she did it. She bought a dress that was made, and then she added some frou-frou and sprinkles and like to make it look cute.
Yeah.
I was a white swan, so that was cute actually, and it went well. So it was a nice memory, and I was very excited about it. So yeah.
Good for you. That must be nice. That must be nice. Must be
Yeah,
great.
I think I did good. I don't remember. I think I did good. I always killed it when I was little.
Yeah, she would like go out and like I just remember like her like signature jump, because remember when back in the day you could just do as many jumps as you wanted for some reason.
Yep.
She would like go out and be like double loop, double loop, double loop, double loop, and just like what?
Oh, like double toe, double loop.
Yeah.
And I would like throw in jumps like, oh, my music's still going, but I'm done. I'd like throw in an extra double toe hop, axe, turn.
Overachiever here.
I was like, give me those points.
Mine was good. My first competition was a like club competition, so it's just like the club that you skate at. They do like a little competition, and I had to compete against the girls. And like, yeah, I kicked their ass. First place.
That's hilarious.
Do they still do that with the lower levels, like girls and boys against each other, or?
I don't think so. I think they'll put them on like the same warm up, but they'll have their own
competition. Yeah.
We're gonna be heading into some, heavy stuff in this conversation. Hopefully, we'll still find the joy and happiness in it. But I just wanted to do for the audience to like go over some like buzzwords that people may know but don't actually understand sometimes. So, giving the difference between prejudice, racism, discrimination, and stereotypes. So, start with stereotypes. Stereotypes are an oversimplified generalization about a group of people. Stereotypes can be harmful, whether they are positive or negative. Positive, like women have higher pain tolerance, can be very detrimental to women, in the medical field. And then, of course, stereotypes like a certain group is lazy. Okay. Prejudice. Of course, as the name says, is a pre-judgment and refers to belief, thoughts, and feelings and attitudes someone holds about a group. A prejudice is not based on experience. Instead, it originates from like an outside actual experience. So, you may think, okay, oh, that person is tall, therefore, I don't know, they touch clouds. Something like that. Not a good example of prejudice, but it's just a prejudgment about anybody, and it could be on your skin color, the shape of your nose, the size of your body, all different things, or how much money you make. And racism, of course, is one of the most egregious types of prejudice, I think. And it's just a belief that a race of people is superior to another. And then, folded in that insidious word that our word is colorism, which is just racism inside of racism, y'all. It's crazy. So it's pretty much creating a hierarchy of skin color. Often it's lighter skin colors are superior to darker skin colors. And then finally, and lastly, I hope you guys are still paying attention, discrimination. While stereotypes and prejudice in all its forms refer to more of a thinking, discrimination is actually taking action with that kind of thinking. Okay, so again, discrimination can be racist, it can be prejudice. Pretty much all racism is prejudice, but not all prejudice is racism, if that kind of makes sense. So that's your little education stop.
Let's get into some heavier stuff. As a Black figure skater, you get into this sport, and people have this notion like, why did you take this sport on? Like, you're Black, like you should be a basketball player, a track runner. And that's a stereotype that's like out there that we don't see ice. We don't do anything that has to do with ice. So Vanessa, we'll start with you. What do people say to you when you tell them that you are a figure skater?
They seem a little surprised, obviously. I think we've all gotten like, figure skating, really? And then like, oh, you're actually really good, kind of thing. So, people will say, oh, that's cool. So you do it for fun. Oh, you do it competitively. Have you been to the Olympics? Like, expecting me to say no, and they'll be like, yeah, I was fifth. But, I think it's good. We need to share, and we need to be proud, and we need to acknowledge our accomplishments so that other people are not so close-minded. They're like, damn, okay, if that girl can do it, then there are probably many more, and they need to know it, When I was younger, I never really had that as a mental block. I was lucky enough to never really have to have that burden. I think nowadays a lot of kids do. It's seen so much on Instagram. They have so much access to it already at such a young age, where we didn't even have cell phones at that age. So it was, some people are very upfront about their racism, and I was very lucky to not have experienced it at that age. So for me, it was more of like my body type. I had a very large chest, I guess you can say, breasts when I was little. And, in figure skating, the stereotypical figure skater, especially at a young age, is like pencil thin, like kind of like a gymnast figure kind of thing. And everyone's like, okay, well, if you have a chest, you can't rotate, you won't be able to jump, you won't be good, things like that. And so that was like really difficult for me as a child. I tried to like wear these sports bras underneath my dresses so that no one could see and things like that. I wasn't very, proud of it, but thank goodness I've had positive reinforcement, and with my hard work, I've been able to prove everyone wrong.
Yes, you have.
Yeah. I'm Olympian.
3 times. You had the last word, for sure. Maé, what do people often say to you when you tell them you figure skate?
Before we come to, I'm a figure skater, they're like, oh, you're doing some sport. I'm like, yeah. They're like, I'm pretty sure I know what you're doing. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you don't, but let's play the game. And then they say, yeah, track and field, taekwondo, football, soccer, like everything. And I'm like, okay, go on. And then I'm like, no, figure skating. And then they're like, just as Vanessa, oh, you're a figure skater. Oh, you've been to the Olympics? Maybe I've seen you, blah, blah, blah. And I just take it as a game, and I just make them guess, because I know they will never guess. And then it shows them also that it's possible. You can be black and figure skate. It goes together. And they're just surprised. They're like, but you're not cold? And like, no, we're moving. Oh, it's a sport. Like, I don't know. So it's just, I guess we teach them, we educate them on it's possible to figure skate and be black. So, yeah. But that's the main reaction I get. Like, oh, you're doing some sport, but they cannot guess the right sport.
I do like the guessing game.
Yeah.
I play it. It's fun. Yeah. You're just like, you're not gonna get it, and if you don't get it, you give me a drink. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Elladj. I will before I get into that, I will say I don't know what rink you skate in, but I'm cold as hell when I skate. I don't know. Your experience might be different than mine, but in Canada, we got rinks that literally you will wear hats, gloves, jacket, hoodie, everything, and then you're still cold.
I think that's me. That's me.
So you got you got hot blood, you're doing well. Well, that's one thing for me when it does get on the topic of figure skating. It's like, oh, but you should, because I always tell them I hate the cold, and they're like, yeah, but you're a figure skater, you should be used to it. I'm like, no, I'm not. You don't get used to cold.
Thank you.
It's not a thing. And they're like, yeah, but you're Russian, so like, it's fine. You're used to cold.
Russians are half cold there.
Yeah, and plus they're like, well, also you're Canadian, so like you're used to cold. I'm like, yeah, but I'm also half African. and the African side wins on this every single time. You know, there's no dealing with. Anyways, but the game, the guessing game, I played that a lot too, and it's fascinating. It's so fascinating, especially like me. You know, they'll see me and they'll be like, okay, you're an athlete. Like, what do you do? And like, oh my God. I mean, the first few things is like, you know, soccer or football, track and field. And then I'm like, they name all the summer sports. That's always the direction they go with. And then they're like, okay. And then I have to say, okay, just winter sport. You've said enough summer sports. Like, I'll give you a hint, winter sport. And they name all: snowboard, skiing, speed skating, hockey, literally curling. Like, they'll name all the winter sports until they actually get to figure skating. And then when you know, we do get to figure skating, it's such a surprise. You know, like, what? You're a figure skater? Like a figure skater? Like the jumps and the things like this and stuff? Like, yeah, and backflips. You know, you know, we do backflips too. But it's that surprise kind of feeling is always there. But then when they understand too that I'm Russian, they're like, oh, but it's normal. Like, Russians are good at it.
They have to, like,
you know, that's the thing. They have to justify it. You know, it's like a black. You know, you're black, it doesn't make sense, but you're Russian. Okay, it does make sense. You know, like, Russians are good at it. And then they're like, Russians are good at skating, and you're black, so you can jump high. So great combination. It makes sense. You jump high because you're black, so it's like, it goes well together. But you know, one of the most typical reaction as a guy that you get is, you know, the fact that, you know, it's a girl sport. And that's always one of the reactions, especially being younger. It's like, oh, but it's a girl sport, so like, why do you do that sport? Or it's like, okay, well, if you're doing that sport, then it means that you're gay, you know. And at the time, like, being young, I could have been, who knows? But it's like that kind of like starts like really, you know, downloading in your mind, and you start thinking, okay, well, do I have to question my masculinity? And that's a whole conversation that I think we could have. We could probably have a whole episode on that. But that's probably one of the biggest things. And it's as a boy, you know, you feel ashamed. You feel ashamed of doing a sport like that. And so I went through a very, very long period of my life where I was actually lying about the sport that I did. I would want to avoid any of those situations at all cost. And so I would literally lie and say that I play soccer, or I do track. And I would every time I would change sports, I didn't care, as long as it was a sport that wasn't figure skating. That's kind of where I was sitting, because I was tired of having this kind of like having to prove that I'm still a man, or I'm still like, you know, I'm still a man, but I'm doing figure skating, you know, because so that's kind of like one of the biggest things. And again, the fact, you know, also being black and being a guy, it's just, it doesn't fit the mold of figure skating. So that kind of mentality, I think that's one of the things I think we're working on as a group, is changing that kind of narrative and perspective of figure skating.
So since we're like here and talking about like our different identities that we intersect, so your mother is Russian, your father is Guinean. How did your identity, of course, as well as you grew up in Quebec, and Quebecois, French identity is so strong there, and then as well as, you know, Canadian. How did all the identities you encapsulate affect you in your skating?
I mean, it was crazy. For the longest time, it was just a massive soup, and everything was in there, and I had no idea what was what and who I actually identified with as a human being. It was a long process trying to figure out who I was in terms of my identity, and I think a lot of biracial kids go through that process. You know, it's like you come from two very distinctly different cultures, and it's like just from my immediate culture, Russian and African, they're both so different. But it's like, you know, I don't fully identify as completely Russian. First, I don't look white. And so that's one of the main things in society. Is like no one will perceive me as Russian, even though I could be in Russia. I speak Russian. I read, write. You know, I still don't look Russian. And so I never fully identified completely with that. And then with with my African side, there's also this sense of like, well, you're a light skin, you know, and being a light skin is being privileged, is seen differently. And, you know, in a way, there's a truth to that in our society, which is which is one of the biggest issues I think we have, you know, is obviously the lighter your skin, the more privileged you are. And it links all the way back to, you know, to to slavery, and, you know, how mixed kids, masters, slaves, mixed kids were able to live in houses, were able to eat the scraps that the masters weren't going to eat, whereas the slaves that were black, they didn't have the scraps. They weren't allowed to be in the house. And so there's already, from back then, there's this sense where society has created a sense of privilege. The lighter you are, the more privileged you're going to be in society, which I'm, you know, I grew up understanding and seeing those differences, you know, because I grew up at some point in my life where I hung out with, you know, my closest group of friends were all Africans, you know, Congo, Ghana, Togo. You know, we connected, and we connected on that side. And I'll get to that at another point, where I finally identified a little bit more with my African side. But I saw in society, or just like, you know, walking into a mall, walking into a store, how differently I was perceived from my friends, you know. And so there's this kind of situation where you never truly know where you fully fit in. And so you code switch, you learn how to adapt, you learn how to fit with you know, my white skating friends. And then I know how to fit with my, you know, black school African friends. And then I know how to fit with my Quebec friends, because Quebec in Canada is perceived as a different thing to English people, right? There's a separation there. And you know, you know, there's this whole, at least I grew up my whole life training in Montreal. My Quebec coach is always telling me, it's like, you know, as a French speaking skater in Canada, you have to work harder than the English speaking people in order to get to where you need to be. And then I had the added fact that I was also, you know, black. Yeah. And so those two factors, you know, always played a role in my mind. It kind of shaped the way that I you know, I move forwards with my training and everything that I did. But it's definitely, you know, there's this whole, there's so much that comes in play when it comes to this identity thing. And finally, you know, it took me years until I finally, you know, understood who I was as a human being and where I sit in society. And it's a long journey, and skating doesn't help. It being such a closed you know, closed sport, and you needing to fit this kind of mold. You know, I went through a period, sorry, I'm rambling on right now, but you know, I went through a period where it's like I switched, you know, I tried to fit that mold of wanting to look like the white preppy dude, you know, like the Lacoste shirt with the pop collar, and like, you know, the preppy look was what figure skating, at least in Canada, you know, all the successful skaters, that's what they looked like. That's kind of like, that was their style. And so that downloaded kind of in my mind, you know, and again, all of that is subconscious. I'm not consciously there looking at them and be like, I need to be more like them. But subconsciously, you know, all of that is telling me that I do need to be more like them in order to be successful, because I had never seen a black man being extremely successful, at least in my, you know, during my time as a kid. And so I had to look at different ways to adapt. And so I changed my style complete. My choices of music, my costumes, everything that I did reflected more, you know, that side. And I didn't feel authentic. I didn't feel real. It didn't feel like it was me, but I had to go through that process in order to be like, okay, well, I got to find myself. I got to find my groove. And I'm glad I did, because now, you know, it's like I created my own style. I created my own way of moving, my own choices of music, my own, you know, my own story that I'm saying when I'm performing and I'm competing. All of, you know, all of that, you know, came from all the experiences that I had throughout my skating career and in my life. So I wouldn't change, you know, I wouldn't necessarily change anything, because I don't know if it would have brought me to where I am now in terms of how I'm performing and who I am as a human being and as a performer. But those things definitely shaped all of that.
If you really love this episode, please tune in next week for part 2.
FSDIA's Conversations in Color is recorded and edited in Toronto and Pickering, Ontario, Canada, on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga of Scugog, Wendat, Huron-Wendat, and the Mississauga of the Credit.
Thank you so much for tuning into FSDIA's Conversations in Color. Please subscribe to our channel. Find us on the gram at Figure Skating DIA, on Facebook at the Figure Skating Diversity and Inclusion Alliance, and our website at fsdia.org. And remember to color your ice.